Hi everyone, Catherine here from Inky Finger Cat. So the last video was showing me using the Kendra's card challenge number 19, cutting up all the pieces and sorting things out so that I could make these cards nice and easily. So I've got 3 cards from the 15 that this particular one makes, and I'm going to do 3. These are made over the course of a couple of days, so yeah, this is one of those projects that you can just pick up, put down. As long as you keep your stuff sort of fairly organised, it's a fairly easy project to come backwards and forwards to. So starting off with number 15, why not start at the very end? And I decided that I was going to, I've just realised the very end card, you probably can't see this, any of this inking that I'm doing through the stencil. But yeah, I decided that I wanted to ink up the stencil, using the stencil, the panels at the back. But then I decided I wanted to darken the edges a little bit more, so going with more ink, and that's probably when you totally lose the actual stenciling that I'd done. Especially because there's not much of this cardstock that's really that visible with the 3 panels of the pattern paper on top. So anyway, I inked it up and then I splattered with some water and lifted that off so that it was kind of like a splotchy pattern. Is that the right word? Splotchy pattern? Something like that. Now, the supplies that I'm using is obviously the Use Up a Magazine Kit Challenge kit. So this is a Kingston Crafts kit. No, it's not. Ignore me. It's a Crafter's Companion kit. But what I've teamed it with is Kingston's Crafts pastel cardstock. Obviously, I've now turned that lilac cardstock into a purple. But yeah, I've used the Kingston's Crafts cardstock. Now, because I've done all the cutting in advance, probably about 2 hours in advance of making this card, I then had to decide, right, what am I going to do as my elements that are going to go on the top of the card? And unlike when I normally do batch making, where I'll do a whole load of stuff in advance, these 3 cards, because I made them over different days, I haven't done that with them. I've absolutely made this card one bit at a time, only thinking about, right, what am I going to do next as I've come across it. So you'll see I am going through all the bits and pieces that are in the pouch left over from the magazine. I am getting to the point now that there are lots of little bitty bits. So yeah, I don't know how many more cards I'm going to get out of it. There's still a reasonable amount of paper, obviously only the 1 sheet of the A4 left. The rest are all been cut into now, mainly because I've done this Kendra's card challenge. But yeah, there's quite a few bitty bits left. So at this point I decide, right, I'm going to bring in a sentiment, and I am bringing in a sentiment that's not part of the magazine kit. And the reason being is I wanted one that went all the way across that said happy birthday. And in the magazine kit, the happy birthday one is more of a square shape sentiment, and I wanted one that went on the strip. So I did bring in a different magazine kit, just used my stamping wheel to stamp it, just because it was to hand. Could absolutely have done it with just a normal acrylic block, although having said that, I did double stamp it because I changed my mind on the colour on the in between the stampings. So originally I did Perfect Plum, and then I went for this Concord, Crushed Concord, which is a very old Stampin' Up ink. Now I chose a craft card blank, and this is me faffing around trying to work out, do I want to add in that little extra strip? And I decide no, I don't. And so I stick it directly on. My little sentiment round that's to the left hand side is up on some foam, but then I decided that I wanted to add some flowers. Now these are flowers stamped over probably from one of the first, maybe the first uses of this kit, and I've just kept them in the pouch with everything else, so now I'm finally getting around to using them. And then I've used the Concord, Crushed Concord and Sweet Sugar Plum for the inking, and I'm just using a bit of water on my brush to just pick up the ink and add it in, but I am adding the pink and the purple in together because obviously it's a pink and purple card, and that I think gives it a nice effect, especially with that kind of splattery background that I've got going on with that purple now. Fussy cut them both out, and I'm going to add these to the card. Now, I do decide that I want them to be flat on the card, but with that little bit of dimension. Oh yeah, I forgot, I also did the leaf, and I used the Tranquil Tide to colour that in. Because I thought that the greens that were in that paper were more bluey green than the yellowy green. So I used Tranquil Tide for that. But yeah, I want them flat down, but I want that little bit of dimension that they offer when they sort of like lift up a little bit. So I did curl the edges of the flowers just slightly. I probably did it as I was gluing them then, just with my thumb to just curl them up a little bit. And then I'm going to add card candies for the centre of the flowers. I actually used card candies on all 3 of these cards. I must have just been in a card candy mood over those few days. I think it was probably because I had the previous, like I'd had this card in front of me when I made my second card. But I decided no further embellishment. Because it is a coloured card blank, I do add in a white panel for my insert. I'm not entirely sure. Oh, right. I'm just using little strips of the papers that are in the kit, left over in the pouch, and also some little bits of the cardstock that's left over to just do my insert. For some reason, I go a little bit overboard with that on the idea of doing the 3 bits. I only end up adding 2 strips. I don't bother with the very fine one for this one. And that's enough to just do my insert of my card. Brings the outside in, and that is card sketch number 15. So you get some close-ups here. I've done my video in a slightly different way because I've done it in 3 different crafting sessions. You've kind of got 3 videos all in one, and I've popped all the photographs in between each one. I don't know whether that's what you want, but that's what I've done. Right, next on, I do sketch 14 because why not? To be honest, I was kind of picking at random at this point. And when you'll see when I get to the next one, which I did film. So this is the following day, and then I filmed the 3rd video a few hours later in the day. So this one has got kind of like, I've chosen to use the reverse of the pattern paper rather than the patterns. I mean, they're both sides are patterned, if you know what I mean, but I decided instead I would go for one large focal element, and it's one of the ones that's the cutter parts in the kit. Some of these sentiments are just not really me. You know, when you're just like, I'm now at the point where I'm like, why did I choose this kit? Why did I buy it? Well, I bought it because I like the colours, to be honest, and it was a bit different, and I love the hummingbird. But yeah, it's a very odd kit for me. It's not my normal style, but do you know what? Sometimes that's just nice, isn't it? So I went to use this and realised that I needed to refill my little Kingston's tape runner. I really shouldn't be using this. I should be using my ATG because that would be cheaper to use. For this kind of gluing. I just love these tape runners though. I think they're so easy and so handy. And my ATG, I do need to put an insert in, and that's a little bit more tricky to do than these Kingston's ones. So, oops. I did go a little bit mad, and I did buy 2 boxes worth of these from Hobby Maker last time they were offered, because I just love them so much when working with them as a part of the design team. So I went and bought them. And this is one of those things. Only do design team work for companies that you actually enjoy working with. Their products. That's me. So I ummed and ahed about the placement and ended up just going with the first place that I thought I'd put it, which is right on the front. And you can see there I pulled in those leaves that I had done and painted with the brushos. Didn't end up using them. They were completely the wrong colour tones to go with the papers. So they've been put back in the pouch for a future project. So instead I took 2 scraps of the cardstock that I've used in the card itself, and I've stamped the flowers and the leaves. I do end up going and doing a 3rd one just when I finish off the card. I felt it needed a 3rd element. I don't know why I didn't think of that in the beginning, because normally I like things in 3s. It's you know, it's a crafty rule, isn't it? I did add some alcohol markers to the stamped images to colour them in. The leaf, I used my Stampin' Blends, and the flower, because of the colours that I was choosing, I used my Pro markers where I'd got more suitable colours. and then just a bit of fussy cutting. I know there are some dies with this magazine set and I've rarely used them, so I suppose that's a little remembering, a little reminder to myself to use the dies. But because I'm only ever doing like small elements like this, I've never even thought about using the dies. So that's a future thing that I need to do. So because I had popped that main element up onto foam, adhesive foam, I'm going to do the same with that top flower. The bottom flower that I pop on the left hand side, I decide to tuck it behind and have it coming out from underneath. And I don't know if you noticed, when I was doing that kind of card topper element, I didn't put the foam right to the edges so that I could tuck things behind. I think that's always a good tip when you're doing adhesive foam and you're lifting things up. Sometimes good to just pop a little bit of space so that you can tuck elements if you want. I tend to do that a lot with when I'm scrapbooking, is I'll tuck elements and not put adhesive right to the edges. So for this one I chose a square card blank and I mounted my kind of card panel off to the left, and that's where I decided, no, I think I need another flower. So I grabbed another scrap and the remainder of that kind of creamy coloured scrap and did the same thing for the flowers, the flower and the leaf. To be honest, I'm not going to huge amounts of detail for the colouring. I do choose just two slightly different tones of the peachy colour for the flower. So it's darker in the centre and lighter at the edge, but it's barely noticeable. And in this case, I decided that the whole element of the flower and the leaf needed to be raised up. It just felt like it worked in terms of the balance of the card. It felt like that needed to be raised up, just like the card topper had been. And again, like on the other card, I had chosen to use card candies for the centres of the flowers. In this case, I have just chosen cream ones. I don't know what I'm going to do when I have no card candy left. I mean, I've got about a third of a jar's full of card candy left at the moment, but you can't get hold of them anymore. They don't exist. The company that used to make them no longer in business. I suppose I'm just going to have to do my own die cutting of circles and maybe dome them myself or something. It's just annoying because I don't often use them, but then when I use them, I love them. Okay, card 10, and you can see there I literally just flicked through, pulled an envelope out, and that's how I worked out which one I was doing. So this is a very simple, there are 3 panels on the there are 2 panels of the pattern cardstock plus another panel of solid on 2 mounts. So I decided that the thing that I was going to do was I was going to zhuzh it up. Is that a word? I don't know, how would you spell it? I don't know. It's a word. It's a noise, isn't it, rather than a word? But I decided I was going to add some gold embossing. I felt like I was missing gold. I'd not used gold for a few crafting sessions. As I say, this is a couple of hours after the previous card. So I've used gold embossing, and I've just embossed the 2 different rounder flower shapes onto the background there. Apologies if you can hear in the background a whole load of noise. My husband is watching a film in the next room and suddenly it's got really loud. So I'm apologising if you can hear all sorts of explosions and dramatic music. I don't know what he's watching, some kind of sci-fi thing, I think. So I chose to use the hummingbird. Now the hummingbird was left over from a previous project where I quite often do this. I will stamp multiples of an item just in case one of them doesn't work out or I mess it up. And then if it doesn't mess up, I end up with an extra left over. And when I'm doing these kinds of projects, I tend to then keep them all in the pouch together. So that's what that hummingbird is. It was from one of the earlier card making sessions using this magazine kit. So if you check back in my playlist, you'll probably find the hummingbird cards that I did. I think it was either session 2 or 3. So I decided that they would be left over, but when I had been putting the card panels, the pattern papers down onto the background, I felt they needed a little bit of definition and a little bit of an edge. And rather than mat and layer them, I decided to just ink up the edges with early espresso, and that was enough to just give a little bit of an edge. So I did that to the craft panel, the 3 paper panels that went on the top. I just thought it just helped to finish it off. So rather than a sentiment that was stamped onto that middle strip of the peach, I've got the hummingbird image and then that little card topper sentiment that I've mounted onto some cardstock so it makes it firmer, and then cut out. Now in this case I decided I wanted to ruffle up the edges. The Kingston's Crafts cardstock is white core, so it's perfect for doing distressing because it just exposes that core. But I wanted a little bit of dimension, but not as much as you would get if you added foam tape. So I just took some scrap card here, 2 layers of it, added that underneath. Perfect. It just gives it that little bit of raise, but nothing major. But I did decide it wanted some sparkle, some more sparkle, because I've got that gold in the background. So I've covered up my focal element and the sentiment just so I don't get too much. And then I'm using this shimmer ink just to do some splatters all over the card. And then lift away that scrap card. And that is my card done. Oh no, sorry, card candy, of course, card candy. Now the sketch had got 2 blobs going down the left hand side, sort of where the wing of the hummingbird is. And I decided rather than doing that, I'd just add 1 at each end of the pattern papers. Again, because it's a craft card blank, I am just adding a little scrap of the paper and adding it to the insert, and jobs are good in. So there you go, that's 3 of the 15 cards made. I'm going to continue with this probably for another couple of days, playing with these card sketches, and then I'll probably pop it away and I probably won't do it again for another month. So, you know, you'll see some more. Please do like, subscribe. Until next time, bye bye.